Life has a way of putting obstacles in our path. We set out with a goal, a dream, or even just a plan for the day, and suddenly something gets in the way. Maybe it's a rejection, maybe it's a failure, maybe it's just a series of small frustrations that pile up until it feels impossible to move forward. And in those moments, it's easy to believe that this is the end of the road, that the obstacle in front of us is a sign to stop, that maybe, just maybe, we weren't meant to go any further. But what if that's not true? What if obstacles aren't meant to stop us, but to shape us? What if they aren't the end of the road, but the very thing that pushes us towards something better? Think about the most successful people in the world, those who have changed industries, impacted lives, or even just built something meaningful for themselves. Every single one of them faced obstacles. They lost deals, they were told no, they were knocked down, and yet they kept going. Why? Because they understood something powerful. Obstacles are not stop signs, they are challenges meant to be overcome. Imagine a person trying to climb a mountain. Halfway up, they encounter a massive boulder blocking their path. They have a choice. They can turn around, go back down, and give up on reaching the top. Or they can find a way around it. Maybe they climb over it, maybe they take a longer route, maybe they even stop to rest and come back stronger. But the point is, they keep going. The boulder didn't end their journey, it just forced them to find another way. That's how life works. When an opportunity doesn't come through, when a door closes, when a plan fails, it doesn't mean the journey is over. It just means there's another way. Maybe the rejection you're facing right now is actually a redirection towards something better. Maybe the failure that feels so painful in this moment is actually shaping you into the person who will succeed later. Maybe the delay you're frustrated with is actually protecting you from something you're not ready for yet. The truth is, obstacles test us. They reveal how badly we want something. They force us to grow, to think differently, to become more resilient. And often they make the end result even more meaningful. Because when you have to fight for something, when you have to push through challenges, you appreciate it more when you finally achieve it. History is full of examples of people who faced overwhelming obstacles and refused to quit. Entrepreneurs who went bankrupt before building multi-million-dollar companies. Athletes who were told they weren't good enough but trained harder and proved everyone wrong. Writers who had their work rejected dozens of times before finally being published. None of them succeeded because the path was easy. They succeeded because the path was hard and they refused to give up. So if you're facing an obstacle right now, remember this. It's not the end. It's a challenge, not a conclusion. It's an opportunity to learn, to grow, and to find another way forward. And if you choose to keep moving, if you refuse to let the obstacle define your journey, you will eventually reach the other side. You will see that what once felt like a roadblock was actually a stepping stone. The path forward may not always be clear, but as long as you keep going, you will find a way, because obstacles are not the end. They are just the beginning of a new way forward. Life has a way of making us question whether things will ever work out. We put in the effort, we try our best, and yet sometimes it feels like nothing is happening. The opportunity we hope for hasn't arrived. The breakthrough we've been praying for seems distant. The struggle feels never ending. And in those moments, it's easy to wonder if we've been forgotten, if we're alone in our journey, if things will ever change. But what if something is happening even when we can't see it? What if behind the scenes things are shifting in our favor? Just because we don't see progress doesn't mean progress isn't being made. Just because the door hasn't opened yet doesn't mean it never will. There is a bigger plan at work, one that we may not fully understand in the moment. Think about planting a seed. You dig the soil, place the seed inside, and cover it up. Then you wait. Days pass, then weeks, and from the surface, it looks like nothing is happening. But underground, that seed is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. It's taking root, it's growing, even though you can't see it yet. Then one day, when the time is right, it breaks through the surface, and what was once hidden is now visible. Life works the same way. We plant the seeds of hard work, of faith, of persistence. And even when we don't see results right away, things are still happening beneath the surface. The right people are being positioned. The right opportunities are being aligned. The right lessons are being prepared. It may not happen on our timeline, but that doesn't mean it's not happening at all. There are countless stories of people who thought they had reached a dead end, only to later realize that everything was falling into place at the right time. Someone loses a job, feeling devastated and unsure of what's next, only to find out later that it pushed them toward an even better opportunity. Someone experiences a major setback, only to discover that it saved them from something they weren't meant for. Someone prays for an answer feeling like nothing is happening, only to one day look back and realize everything was working in their favor all along. The challenge is that when we are in the middle of uncertainty, it's hard to see the bigger picture. We want answers now. We want doors to open immediately. We want to know exactly how things will work out. But sometimes the best thing we can do is trust that even when we don't see movement, there is a way being made. This is why patience and faith are so important. Impatience makes us doubt the process. It makes us think that just because we don't have what we want right now, it means it's never coming. But real faith means believing in what we can't see. It means knowing that even in silence, things are shifting. Even in waiting, progress is happening. Even in disappointment, a greater plan is unfolding. And one day, when we least expect it, everything will come together. The opportunity will appear. The answer will make sense. The struggle will turn into a testimony. And we will look back and realize that every delay, every closed door, and every challenge was actually leading us to exactly where we were meant to be. So even when you don't see the way forward, trust that there is one. Even when nothing seems to be happening, believe that things are moving in the background. Because just like the seed growing underground, just like the sunrise slowly lighting up the sky, just like the seasons changing without us realizing it, things are always working even when we can't see them yet. There are moments in life when everything feels uncertain, when no matter how much we try, how much effort we put in, things just don't seem to work out the way we planned. We look around and see others moving forward, reaching their goals, achieving their dreams, while we remain stuck, confused, and wondering why things aren't happening for us. In times like these, doubt starts to creep in. We begin to question if we're on the right path. We start to wonder if we should just give up. It's in these moments that we have a choice to make. Do we let what we see determine what we believe? Or do we hold on to what we know to be true, even when things don't make sense? Too often we rely only on what's in front of us. If things are going well, we feel confident. If things are falling apart, we assume we're failing. If we see progress, we're hopeful. If we don't, we get discouraged. But the problem with this mindset is that it makes us reactive. It makes our faith, our motivation, and our sense of purpose dependent on circumstances that are constantly changing. But what if we shifted our perspective? What if instead of letting what we see determine what we believe, we let what we believe guide us through what we see? Think about someone navigating through fog. When visibility is low, it's easy to feel lost. The road ahead isn't clear. There's no way to see what's coming next. And for many people, that uncertainty is enough to make them stop in their tracks. But someone who knows where they're going doesn't stop just because they can't see everything. They trust their direction. They move forward one step at a time because they know that even if they can't see the entire path, the path still exists. Life is the same way. There will be times when things are unclear, when we don't know how everything will come together. But just because we can't see the full picture doesn't mean there isn't a plan in motion. Just because the outcome isn't visible yet doesn't mean it isn't real. This is where faith comes in. Faith isn't about seeing everything clearly. It's about trusting even when we don't. It's about holding on to what we know, that our efforts are not in vain, that setbacks are often setups for something greater, that just because something is delayed doesn't mean it's denied. Some of the greatest success stories come from people who refuse to let their current circumstances define their future. There are entrepreneurs who were told their ideas would never work, only to build businesses that changed the world. Athletes who were counted out early in their careers only to go on and break records. People who lost everything only to come back stronger than ever. What separated them from everyone else wasn't talent or luck. It was the decision to keep believing in something greater even when they couldn't see the outcome. When things don't go as planned, it's easy to assume that we're off track. But what if the setback is actually leading us to something better? What if the closed door is redirecting us toward a bigger opportunity? What if the delay is preparing us for something we aren't ready for yet? The difference between those who succeed and those who give up isn't always skill or intelligence. It's the ability to trust the process even when it doesn't make sense. So instead of asking, why is this happening to me? Try asking, what is this preparing me for? Instead of assuming that a challenge means you've failed, consider that it might be a necessary step in your growth. Instead of giving up just because things aren't working out yet, Hold on to the truth that breakthroughs often come right after the moment we feel like quitting. Life will always have uncertainty. The path won't always be clear, but that doesn't mean you're lost. That doesn't mean you're alone. That doesn't mean you're failing. Keep moving forward. Keep believing in what you know to be true, because even in the fog, even in the unknown, the way is still there. You just have to trust enough to keep walking. Life has a way of surprising us. Just when we think we have everything figured out, something unexpected happens. A plan falls apart, an opportunity slips through our fingers, or a door we were certain would open stays shut. In those moments, it's easy to feel defeated, like all our efforts were for nothing. We tell ourselves that if it didn't happen the way we expected, then maybe it wasn't meant to be. But what if that's not true? What if the very thing we see as a setback is actually the setup for something greater? Opportunities don't always come from the places we expect. Sometimes the things we desperately chase after aren't meant for us, and the real breakthrough is waiting in a place we never considered. That's why it's so important to stay open. Instead of focusing only on what should happen, we need to trust that something even better might be on the way. Think about all the times in life when something didn't work out the way you wanted, only for it to turn out better than you imagined. Maybe you didn't get the job you applied for, but later you found one that was a perfect fit. Maybe a relationship ended, and at the time, it felt like the worst thing that could happen, but looking back, you realize it was exactly what you needed. Maybe a plan failed, but because of that failure, you discovered a new direction, one that brought you to where you were truly meant to be. Some of the biggest breakthroughs come from the most unexpected places. The challenge is that we don't always recognize them in the moment. We get so caught up in our vision of how things should go that we don't leave room for something greater. But life isn't just about what we plan, it's also about what we allow. When one door closes, it's not a sign to give up. It's a sign to look around and see what else is possible. There are countless stories of people who thought they had reached a dead end, only to find that their greatest success came from an opportunity they never expected. A business owner loses everything only to later build something even greater. An artist gets rejected over and over only to find success in a completely different field. A person faces what seems like a failure only to look back years later and realize it was the best thing that ever happened to them. The common thread in all these stories is that they didn't limit themselves to just one path. They stayed open, they trusted the process, and they were willing to see opportunities even in places they hadn't looked before. So what does this mean for you? It means that if things aren't working out the way you planned, don't be discouraged. It doesn't mean you're failing. It doesn't mean you're lost. It just means something different is unfolding, something you might not see yet. Instead of fixating on what isn't happening, start looking for what is. Maybe the opportunity is already in front of you, but you haven't recognized it yet. Maybe what feels like a closed door is actually redirection towards something greater. The key is to stay open and trust that what's meant for you will find you, even if it doesn't come in the way you expected. Life has a way of leading us exactly where we need to be, often in ways we never could have planned for ourselves. The opportunities are there, the path is being made, and if you keep your heart open to new possibilities, you'll find that what's ahead is even greater than what you left behind. Timing is one of the most difficult things to accept in life. We want things to happen on our schedule, in our way, and exactly when we think we're ready. We set goals, make plans, and work hard, expecting that results will come right away. But often life doesn't unfold the way we expect. The opportunity we want takes longer than we hoped. The breakthrough we're waiting for feels just out of reach. And in those moments, doubt starts to creep in. We wonder if we're doing something wrong, if we're not good enough, or if we should just give up. But what if the delay isn't a denial? What if the waiting period is actually a time of preparation? Just because something hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it never will. It simply means that the right time hasn't arrived. Timing matters more than we realize. A door opening too soon can be just as damaging as a door never opening at all. Think about a fruit that hasn't ripened yet. If you pick it too early, it won't taste the way it's supposed to, it won't be ready. The same is true in life. Sometimes we think we're ready for something, but there's still growth that needs to happen. There are lessons we haven't learned yet. There are experiences we need to go through before we can truly handle what's ahead. And the worst thing that could happen is for us to step into an opportunity before we're prepared for it. Look at the people who have achieved great success in any field, whether it's business, sports, art, or leadership. Many of them had to go through years of unseen work before their moment came. They had to fail, learn, and develop the skills they would eventually need. If their success had come earlier, before they were ready, they might not have been able to sustain it. The waiting period wasn't wasted time. It was time spent becoming the person they needed to be. Think about a time in your own life when something didn't happen as quickly as you wanted, but later you realized that the delay actually worked in your favor. Maybe it was a job you didn't get, only to later find one that was a much better fit. Maybe it was a relationship that didn't work out, and now you understand why it wasn't meant to be. Maybe it was a personal goal that took longer than expected, but along the way you gained experience and wisdom that made you stronger. The point is, waiting isn't just about not having something, it's about becoming someone. It's easy to get frustrated when things don't happen on our timeline. But what if instead of focusing on when something will happen, we focus on who we are becoming in the process? The waiting period is a time for growth. It's a time for refining our character, strengthening our skills, and preparing for the opportunities ahead. Because when the time does come, we won't just step into it unprepared, we'll be ready to handle it. The difference between those who succeed and those who don't isn't just about talent or luck. It's about patience. It's about trusting the process even when it doesn't make sense. It's about understanding that just because something hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it's not coming. And when the right moment arrives, everything will fall into place in a way that we never could have orchestrated on our own. So if you're in a season of waiting, don't lose hope. Don't rush the process. Don't force doors to open before they're meant to. Instead, use this time to grow, to prepare, and to trust that what's meant for you will come at exactly the right time. And when it does, you'll look back and realize that the wait wasn't a waste. It was necessary. It was shaping you, and it was always leading you to something greater. Life is full of challenges, and sometimes the obstacles in front of us seem impossible to overcome. We encounter moments where the weight of our struggles makes us question whether we have the strength to continue. The setbacks feel relentless, the road ahead looks uncertain, and doubt starts to whisper that maybe we're not meant to succeed. But in those moments, it's important to remember one truth: perseverance changes everything. No matter how difficult the journey becomes, those who keep going are the ones who find a way forward. It's easy to stay committed when things are going well, when progress is visible, when success seems within reach, motivation comes naturally. But the real test isn't how we respond when everything is working in our favor. It's how we respond when nothing seems to be going right, when doors close, when rejection stings, when we pour our heart into something and it still doesn't work out. That's when perseverance matters most. Because the moment we choose to keep going, even when it's hard, is the moment we prove to ourselves that we are stronger than our circumstances. History is filled with stories of people who faced overwhelming obstacles yet refused to give up. Entrepreneurs who failed multiple times before finally building something successful. Athletes who were told they weren't good enough only to go on to break records. Artists whose work was rejected over and over before finally being recognized. What separates these people from the rest? It's not just talent, intelligence, or luck. It's the decision to keep moving forward, no matter what. Imagine someone digging for gold. They work tirelessly, day after day, chipping away at the rock, hoping to find something valuable. But after weeks or months of effort with no results, they start to doubt. They begin to think that maybe they've been wasting their time. Eventually they give up and walk away, only for someone else to come along, dig just a little deeper, and strike gold. The truth is, they were probably closer than they realized. If they had held on just a little longer, if they had kept going despite the frustration, they would have found what they were looking for. The same is true in life. So many people give up just before they reach their breakthrough. They walk away because they don't see progress, not realizing that things were about to change. But those who succeed, they're the ones who push through even when they don't see results. They keep digging, they keep fighting, they keep believing that something better is ahead. That doesn't mean perseverance is easy. There will be moments when self-doubt creeps in, when exhaustion makes us question everything. But the key is to take one more step, just one more. No matter how small, no matter how slow, progress is still progress. And over time, those small steps add up. They build momentum. They create breakthroughs. One of the greatest strengths a person can have is resilience, the ability to get back up after being knocked down, to adapt when things don't go as planned, to keep moving forward even when the future is uncertain. Because the truth is, setbacks are not permanent, failures are not the end, and obstacles are not roadblocks. They are stepping stones. Every challenge we overcome makes us stronger, wiser, and better prepared for what's ahead. So if the journey feels difficult right now, if you feel like you're running out of strength, remind yourself why you started in the first place. Keep going, keep believing, because perseverance is what turns struggles into success, setbacks into comebacks, and obstacles into opportunities. The way forward isn't always easy, but it's always worth it. And if you refuse to quit, if you refuse to let challenges define you, you will find a way.